All right, so good afternoon, check, radio check. Welcome everybody. I want to wish and I hope everybody had a very nice Easter. You know, it's spring break for my girls. They're still up in the Poconos. I'm holding down the fort. But last week, we talked about, is your money safe, and the differences between banking reserves versus actuarial reserves. And just based on time, I did not have enough time to really get into the banking aspect, because banks make money a couple different ways. But one of the ways that they make money is what we term or deem the velocity of money. And I've talked about this before, but I think it bears repeating because it helps people to sort of maybe rethink traditional wisdom on how they're currently approaching things. And maybe I'll coin some truisms along the way, but before I get started, if everybody wouldn't mind just keeping in your prayers, Alan Freed in my office is going to have to undergo some eye surgery. He went away and, he's been struggling with his eyes, but he texted me. I guess he came back from his trip and a little bit of trauma there. So he's going to have to be under for a little while. So he's in my prayers. So without any further ado, we'll get started. And in the spirit of time, I will try and go slow, but sometimes I get caught up in the moment and I do a deep dive, or sometimes I speak too quickly, so I apologize in advance. All right, so velocity of money. Let's say that you own a grocery store and you have some inventory, and one of the items is a can of peas, right? So, this is just a little cartoon etching, sort of displaying that concept, and you can see you have a glass front. This could be anywhere USA, traditional grocery store. You go down some aisles and you see some different items. Now, in stock, you have one can of peas, and it's not a hugely popular item. And so because of this, it's only sells one time a year. And that's partially because it's in an aisle, right? So as we look at this, we say, well, it cost us, when we purchased this to put it on our shelf, it cost us 50 cents. And when it finally did sell, we made a whopping 2 cents on our can of peas. And on the surface, doesn't look like a lot of money. And you go, why bother? But when you look at the sale price and you say, hey, capital investment divided by inventory, right? 2 cents equals net profit. Now you take that 2 cents, divide it by your capital input, and that's actually a 4% rate of return on the money gross, right? So you have an epiphany, you say, wow, we're looking at the books, your bookkeeper told you made some money on this product, maybe your significant other pointed it out to you. So you, the owner, said, let me test something. Let me try and move this can of peas to an end cap. That's at the end of the aisle. Typically, when we go into the grocery store of some type, they usually will put their very popular items or most profitable items at the end, so that they're very top of mind. Well, and you notice that now you move that inventory a little bit more frequently. Actually, you look at it, you're actually now moving one can of peas per quarter. So now when we apply some math to it, we turn around and we say, okay, 2 cents return on investment times 4 times a year is 8 cents profit. You take that 8 cents profit by our original capital investment of 50 cents, and now you have a 16% rate of return on investment. Not too shabby. Okay? So you have an aha moment. You're sitting back, you're strategizing, you're thinking, you're like, wow, this is pretty cool. What if we move them to the cash register area, right? So now you decide to move it at checkout. And again, you notice that now you can move this inventory even more quickly. It's top of mind. It's right there, easy to grab. And lo and behold, you're moving one a month. One a month for the same 2 cents ROI, but now it's 12 times a year. That's a 24 cents profit divided by the original 50 cents capital. And that's a 48% return on investment. So now we're starting to cook with gas, right? We're like, wow, this is really cool. I like this idea. How do we keep that moving? Well, where can we put it to get the highest visibility? And that's in the front window of the store. So now when we put them at the front window of the store, now every person that drives down Main Street, every person that walks by, every person that walks in and out of the store sees that can of peas, and you're lo and behold able to sell one a week. Same 2-cent profit, but that's $1.04 at the end of the year divided by your 50% capital, and that's a 208% return on inventory. So that is a good business model. And I demonstrate this because as silly as this sounds, it's math. And, you know, all inventory, all investments and products like this, when you have multiple transactions like this, can generate a certain amount of velocity. Now, here's a question for everybody in the audience, and it is audience participation. And if you know the answer, don't say anything, but just want to see out of curiosity. You need a can of peas for dinner. Do you pay the cashier for the can of peas? I mean, it's your store. Or do you take them out the back door? Any takers? I got one. Hey, okay. Well, if we consume our capital, we lose our ability to earn a profit. And so what our employees are likely to do, they see you taking things out the back door, they might follow suit, and now you have pilfering. You know, it is our store, but when you run a business, if you run it like a business, you have to think in different terms. But the other component is if you go to sell that business, store A turns around and takes everything out the back door. They feed their family, they take the inventory off the shelves, they don't run it through the books. But owner B pays for everything out of the register. Which store is going to be more profitable, right? And it would be store B. And yeah, and if you ultimately go to sell your business, and because you have good book and good accounting practices, they're going to turn around and you're going to get more times your investment. Okay. So what's that have to do with money? Chris, great story. Love the pictures, love the concept. But what the heck's that have to do with money? And the answer is banks lend money for mortgages, other terms as well, but mortgages is the one that's top of mind. And I can tell you in my career, everybody I've ever known wants to pay their mortgage off as quickly as they possibly can. And I get it, myself included. But we just came through a pretty low interest rate environment. And my dad used to say, you know, go get the belt. I can tell you, if I was in trouble, I was the slowest walker to that closet to get a belt that you'd ever seen on the planet. And I would find the softest belt I could possibly find. Now, with that said, another way to say that is you don't hurry to a whooping. So think about it. If right now, just 3 years ago, a 30-year mortgage, I just updated these slides when I did this 2 years ago, and a 30-year mortgage was about 3.7, I believe. Almost double, right? So if you purchase your mortgage 2 years ago, are you throwing extra principal payments off on that 30-year because you don't want the interest? I get it. I understand. But let me show you how banks make money. It's called velocity. Because what they're doing is the sooner you pay that off, a 20-year mortgage a little bit lower, and we chase a lower rate, you get that 15-year mortgage at 6%, and we're going to turn around and get it paid off. And we got no mortgage in 15 years. I got it. But just understand it from the bank's point of view. The banks turn around and lend that money out quicker, and that's velocity. So quite often we're helping the banks make more money. Now, I have no axe to grind against banks. Banks are an integral part of our financial system. We need them, we use them, we have them. But as you saw when I did my call last week on banking reserves versus actuarial reserves, since 2000, over 500 banks have gone defunct, right? versus companies that have actuarial reserves. I think it was less than 100. I counted like 30 plus. So when we're looking to have money, it depends on what the usage, right? If we need liquidity, we need access, ease of access, there's a lot of things we can do. But when we're talking our safe money, we have to start to think about what are we doing? We view our homes as safe, and we put our money in our equity, and we pay off our debt so that we have equity. But then how are we accessing it? How are we using it? Where are we getting a return on investment? And that's a very hard lesson for people to get their head around. What is the rate of return on equity? I'm not talking about the home values. Home value and market values go up and down based on the environment, right? Your market values. Equity. Any takers here? Did anybody want to type in what they think the return on equity is? So the way I always ask this question, zip. Very good, Harold. If you've never gotten a 1099 HOUSE, because if you make money, the government's going to send you a bill. If you've never gotten a 1099 house, there's a reason for it. And that's because there is no return on equity. Now, that's a conversation that I'm not going to get into today, but just get your head around that. Listen, just because we have one of our largest assets where we put money, we think banks are safe, we think our homes are safe. I get it, and I agree. But quite often when I'm sitting with folks, I think they're so heavily weighted in these arenas that they're not necessarily getting, maybe some of the returns that they need or have to get to be able to retire comfortably. So anyway, that's my little lesson on, velocity and canopies. So this is our disclosures. I want to thank all of you for taking time out of your day to listen, and I'll leave it with this.